Special thanks to the first. Alright, let's see what we got. So, Gunbreaker. Rough Divide, they're engaged, they're charged, increases damage and healing posted by they buffed it by adding another 10%. I mean, it's alright, but it's not exactly what they need. Like, they already do a fair amount of damage as is, but I feel like they're kind of ignoring the fact that they kind of got something good going with Gunbreaker. For instance, right here, Draw Injunction. Very simple fix, in my opinion. Just make it 1 second cooldown and have that little solid barrel thing that it does. Have it be a link to their Junction cast instead. Very simple fix. I feel like it would add a whole lot. And if they don't want to do that, another thing I can recommend is just turn it into similar to what Red Mage has. Being that they can just shift from black shift and a white shift, like this. But for Gunbreaker, they can just switch between stances. That would be a really great change if you ask me. But yeah, stuff like that, I would like them to lean more strongly into its versatility aspect instead of damage. Because right now, it's already fine in that regard. They just need to bring their attention elsewhere. Because, yeah, it's not exactly what they need. It's alright, but it's not what they need. Relentless Rush, with the additional damage, additional effect, reduces damage taken by 25%. This is alright. It's pretty alright. Gunbreakers have a 1 minute cooldown on their limit break, since it takes 1 minute to regen their limit break bar. So, it's alright. It's alright. It adds a bit to their tankiness, because they're kind of the squishiest tank of the lot. So, I'd say it's alright. Bard! Slight damage buffs. They have Powerful Shot, their spammable combo ability, and the Imperial Arrow, which can be stacked up to 3 times. So, that can be kind of decent. Their burst themselves is still not the greatest. Like, they're never there to be a burst job anyway. So all they can really do is like Apex Arrow, Nocturnal, Imperial Arrow, and Blast Arrow. That's kind of what they got going for them. And if we put all that math together, it's a decent amount. It's not a solid kill, but that's a fair amount of burst damage. Before I had to be around 3,000 less of this, so it's just... That was wrong. So it'd just be around 26,100. Yes, I could do the math in my head, but it's good to have this representation here. So it's all right, but it's not really their role. Their role is mostly there to be support with Warden's Paeon and setting it up with Silent Nocturne and just a passive buff with their Apex Arrow and their Final Fantasia. Well, Apex Arrow and Blast Arrow. Both of those are solid buffs to the team. They're not really there to do things on their own. They're very much a team job. So Bard, it's all right. It's all right changes. I'm fine with them. It's not huge, but it's something they got for him. Machinist, though, I think all of this is unnecessary. They already hit really freaking hard as is. So I do not think these were necessary adjustments. In fact, they feel a little misplaced to be giving them these buffs. So, for instance, Drill went from 9k to 10k, so now they do 2k more potency and damage. Not a huge amount, but still, they already freaking hit really hard, and that's through guard. This is through guard. As a reminder, they can hit you for this hard through guard. Good times. Good times. Bioblaster, damage over effect duration has been increased from 9 to 12 seconds. It's alright. It's alright. Again, I don't think it's entirely necessary, but it's okay. They can get an extra tick of that, I suppose. Which is what? Okay, it's another 4k, so it's alright. It's alright. And then we got Chainsaw. A 10k to 12k potency boost. I don't think it needed this, so now it hits as hard as an empowered air anchor. Just baseline. But Chainsaw as is it's a freaking gamble of instant win. I'm not fond of it. It exists. I'm fine with it being just a flat potency damage, but the fact that I can insta-gib someone on a really low chance, which has happened to me like twice or 3 times within like an hour or 2 of queuing, so it's not exactly fun to be on the receiving end of that. But yeah, Machinist, I feel like did not need any of these. They already hit really freaking hard. Like, for instance, here's a little combo. They get Analysis going, get Wildfire going, throw down the turret, Blast Charge 1, Blast Charge 2, and then this. Big old damage. Okay, we're gonna stop it from like right there or something, or up here. All right, let's bring out the math here. All right, so we got 4k for one of the turrets. They're obviously not gonna stand into the entire way, so you can subtract 1 or 2 of these 4ks. We got Blast Charge doing that, and another Blast Charge to get the second prog going. But since they have the debuff on, they have that going. They're gonna get hit by another turret. That's that much damage. Then here's the freaking huge wombo combo. You got the Empowered Drill, buffed by the 10%, which now does that much, comboed up with, that's too many zeros, comboed up with Wildfire, that's that much damage. And we're gonna kind of ignore this one here, because all we're wanting to get is up to like drill and wildfire this combo. So if you got all that going on a single target, that's the max health of around like half of the jobs in the game. So a machinist can now do this in one very short combo if the person's not paying attention. So they didn't need the change, so now they're even more powerful than what they already were. So I'm not too fond of this. We're gonna be seeing a lot more of them, folks, and I've already seen a lot of them as is. So yeah, I don't think it was very needed, but yeah, they have it. They hit way hard. Not way harder, but they hit a little bit harder now, which probably is gonna result in actual like kills now instead of just barely living. It is what it is. Gonna have to deal with that now. Dagnabbit. Dancer. Ooh, they're getting changes. Honing Dance. The additional effect reduces damage taken by 20%. This is very good. That's a very good... Yeah, sorry for the voice crack. This is a very good change. I think this is actually rather necessary because when they use that ability, we're gonna deal with this being elongated here for a second. They're kind of a sitting duck. They can't really press anything and until that thing goes off. Wide range, and it hits harder if you're at dead center at them on the target. But they can't really do anything while spitting, while Beyblading. So it's an alright change. I'm fine with this. It's something they kind of needed because if you're not even able to recuperate, I feel like it should have something to kind of defend itself. So that's a fair change. I'm quite fine with this. It's a very necessary one, and I think it's looking in the right direction with the Dancer. Fan Dance. Potency increase from 4k to 5k. That's alright. Doesn't really do anything, though. If they added another charge, that would bring a lot more sustainability to overall like Dancer and their dance partner. But it's not really what they need. Well, personally, I think their dancing buffs to their partner need to that effect in general I feel like should be buffed a bit more, because Bard can kind of do Dancer's job but better since it hits everyone. Like, yeah, the strength of it is just a little bit weaker, but a Dancer's only going to affect one person. So if it's you and your target taking like 10% less damage, that's overall around 20% distribution. Bard, their apex arrow increases all party members and themselves their damage by 5%, which is overall 25% value. And if you compare that, actually, now here's the actual comparison between that ability. Dancer's Saber Dance increases their damage and their partner's damage by 5%, which is a 10% value. So that's obviously not really good at all. I think that's personally a little, like, not little, that's quite significantly disappointing that it's only a measly 5% damage increase. That thing should probably be buffed up to like 10% or 15% or even 20%. I'd be fine with that as long as they're able to like focus one target. That way a Dancer is actually going to be rather favorable, and they'll be able to enable very strong engages if this was buffed a little bit more. And people will be a lot less upset with Dancer being in their teams. I've noticed people just get the feeling every time they see a Dancer. So yeah, it's not exactly the changes they need, but it's all right. Well, it's all right, I suppose. All right, so Black Mage. I suppose this was kind of expected, considering how Black Mage is. It's a very high skill. It's a very high skill floor and a very high skill ceiling type of job. And when it's the freaking game director's favorite job to play, and he does do PvP very frequently, this pattern was bound to happen. So, yeah. So let's take a look at what the tilt has led to. All right, so Fire and Blizzard. Their duration has went from 15 to 30 seconds. This is mostly a quality of life change. And I'm fine with this, because that's their combo. That's basically how long they can hold on to their combo. Beforehand, they only last 15 seconds. Now they're boosted up to 30 seconds, which is a welcome change. So if I cast Fire here, I can hold on to this and just be over here in the back. I need to run. I need to like heal up for a second and start healing a little bit. I need to get a heal off. Now I come in. Beforehand, I would only have 3 seconds now to get the other fire off. Now I have a bit more time. So that's very good. Very fine. I'm fine with this change. Burst! Potency has been increased from 12k to 16k on both fronts, so it's going to do that much damage and heal and the barrier potency. I'm kind of fine with this, specifically the barrier potency, but the offensive potential, that's pretty strong. That's literally how strong their limit break hits for, so yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. They basically have a limit break they can just use now any moment, or at least a limit break worth of damage, So that's gonna freaking slam for, bam, 16k. Kind of big. Kind of big. All right, so that's pretty. Paradox, now a charged action with a maximum of 2 charges. This is a really big change. This is going to allow a lot more goes, and they're able to just engage a lot more frequently, and be able to, and switch targets a lot more frequently, and have a lot more uptime in general, a lot more pressure. This is really big change. So yeah, that's going to allow them to pull off quite a few more maneuvers. Nightwing, half a sleep effect. Now also reduce movement speed by 50%. That is kind of huge. But at the same time, people are now going to be more willing to purify a Nightwing than before. Because beforehand, I've kind of seen people just kind of brush it off as something that's just going to wear off, which is kind of a mistake of a mentality to have. Because it's a crowd control that breaks on damage, but there's an aspect of it that deals 8,000 damage if you're getting hit while in sleep. So it's kind of not something you want to welcome yourself to. But now that it has a 50% movement speed, people are probably going to be purifying a bit more often, which kind of be a little counterintuitive to the purpose of this, meaning that their goal was probably to make it Nightwing actually more effective in general, but now it's probably going to be more negated than usual. So it's going to be a bit of a double-edged sword in that regard. And it seems to have a sleep duration and the sleep effect. Both of them went from 4 seconds to 3 seconds. So you only have 3 seconds to trigger the sleep, but it also only takes 3 seconds for the half asleep to go off. Now, this is kind of huge, because I've had a combo in mind beforehand as a Black Mage. It was already pretty strong, but now it's with these new changes, it's kind of streamlined. So it goes as this, which is now the new version of the combo. You go in, Blizzard, Sleep, Paradox, Super Flare, go in, and Burst, but there's a table in my way. That was kind of the wrong order. Let me try that again. Actually, that was the correct order. The difference was that I used ethereal manipulation. So now that's an interesting change to take into consideration. So give me 1 moment to try that again, and then we'll do the math later. All right, so the combo goes as so. Blizzard, Nightwing, Paradox, Super Flare, go in, Burst. All right. So what that combo did in particular, since I used Blizzard to lock down the target, that's why I used Blizzard first. Alright, so we got the initial Blizzard cast, which is going to do a normal 4k damage. And then we got Nightwings. They're just going to have that sitting on them. Paradox into 8k, into immediate Super Flare. So now they're rooted, so they can't really do anything. So they hit for this much damage so far. So that little combo, 21k. Already a fair amount. And then you go in for the Burst, which does for around this much damage, and because the battle thing doesn't want to track the sleep proc damage, we're going to assume that one went through, because that did in fact get sleep off of the target right there. So that whole little combo, 45k damage. That's a rather significant amount of damage, and 4k of that was buffed because of the burst change. So it went from 41k to around 45k. With all of that, that's a lot of damage. So over here, Fire 4 and Flare. Interesting. Where's the? I don't see. Fire 4 and Blizzard 4 right here. All of their cast times have been reduced by 0.5 seconds. So that's kind of significant. Kind of significant because casting in general has kind of been really awkward and annoying to deal with in the fast-paced nature of this new PvP mode. So I'm fine with these changes. Very necessary, I'd say. However, over here in Flare and Freeze, their potencies went from 8k to 12k. So that's another 4k damage boost. So now their pressure is going to be quite a bit more significant. So Black Mages are going to be doing a fair bit more damage. And also down here, their limit break, when they have it, they now have a 20% damage taken reduction for 15 seconds. I am fine with this. I'm actually very fine with this change because Black Mages, I don't know how many times I gotta emphasize this, they have the smallest health pool in the game right next to Sage, which by the way, Sage has not been touched, which is my main, so that's kind of making me upset that everyone's getting buffed and I'm just kind of sitting stagnant, so I'm gonna get irrelevant soon. But anyway, yeah, those kind of got buffed. So what we're going to assume, so let's say we went the traditional route and just fully normal stacked like Blizzard. We started doing this, and do that one, but we want to switch targets. So we use ethereal manipulation, we throw that on them, sleep, super flare, do all that, and do all that. It's that same combo from earlier. So this person got rooted, and we were able to do the damage to this person here. Alright, so let's see how much damage that did with a freeze on them. and assuming they didn't heal up. So if you just switch targets and use a freeze on that person, that's 12k damage. Use Paradox, we got 8k, and that's immediately already 20k damage. It's kind of huge. And then you're going to freeze them immediately, so they're not going to be able to, like, purify out of it. And we're going to skip over this 6k right here. And we're going to Ethereum Manipulation and then Burst. 16,000, which is going to knock him out of that sleep that we threw on. That's 53,000 damage. That's going to kill a dude. Well, half the dudes in the game from max health. So black mages can do a pretty solid amount of instant pressure. So, yeah, black mages, we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of them. And this Apocatastasis ability is going to be a lot more valuable, since now they're going to be a little bit more tanky. And I'm fine with this. I feel like it was a necessary change. And it's a limit break, for crying out loud. They got to wait a full 60 seconds for this thing. So I'm fine with this. I think it was a rather necessary change. The freeze and flare, maybe a little overkill because they're already pretty decent as is. However, I'm still kind of fine with this because I don't see a lot of black mages, and the very few I do, most likely I do struggle a lot to get to where they are, and they can be a very, very fierce menace when played well. But again, high skill ceiling, high skill floor. So I'm fine with this. Though in the hands of a skilled black mage, this is going to be absolutely ferocious. So that's something to look forward to now. Alright, so we got summoners now. So, Slipstream, which is a very weird AoE donut. Potency has been increased from 6k to 8k. Okay, so I'm going to assume that's the initial hit. Let us see. Slipstream. Yup, the initial hit that you hit them with is 8k. And the Windstorm potency from 3k to 4k. Okay, so the dot is kind of buffed a little bit, which is nice. It's alright. Like, it already kind of felt like a weak ability in general, so I'm fine with this change. I felt like it was rather a decent one to go for. And Radiant Aegis. Damage reduction has been increased from 10% to 20%. Oh, that's kind of huge. Barrier potency has been increased from 8k to 10k. Okay, so summoners self-sustain, or at least their barrier in general, got super boosted. I don't know how to feel about this, because they could throw that on an ally too and use it as a support tool. But if they're gonna have that, then that kind of nullifies Bard a little bit, because Warden's Paean, even though it is very good with the Purify status, they need to have it used up first in order for them to get the Warden's Grace effect, which reduces damage taken by 20% while increases HP recovered by healing action by 20%. So that healing action, the Bards do still have an edge over the Summoner cooldown, the Summoner defensive, but that's another thing. The Warden's Paean has a 30-second recast time, whereas the Summoner has a 20-second recast time. So now the Summoner may have more defensive supportive tools than the Bard because of that change. I don't know how I feel about that, because Bard, I feel like Bard needs to be more of the supportive role, and if you have other jobs encroaching onto that specific role, it ends up making this role irrelevant to have on a team. So if you have a Summoner doing that much supportive capabilities, then it's going to be like, why would I ever want a Bard on my team if I could have a Summoner instead, where they can give the barrier quicker and the barrier's better. Well, not better, but it's the overall value you get more out of it since it's the faster cooldown. So you got scenarios like that, and you can actually feel a Summoner's presence outside of a Bard, which is kind of a one trick being their silence. So I don't know how to feel about that when we were comparing that with something like a Bard. I don't know how I feel about Radiant Aegis being that powerful and being something that can be shared. I don't know. Mountain Buster. Potency has been increased from 2k to 4k. That's nice. That's their root. It was never really used for damage to begin with. It was mostly there just, lock them down in place for other people to set up their damage. Like, bam. It's right there. And it also brings other people closer for more AoE pressure. So they're good for, like, setting up, like, AoE bursts and whatnot. So it's alright. Revelation. Potency has been increased from 3k to 6k, so they doubled Revelation. I'm going to assume, so Revelation is the ability you can use after you summon your Phoenix, because when you summon the Phoenix, it instantly gives everyone a 4k cure. And no, it instantly gives everyone a 4k heal over time. So that's going to be ticking on them, and they get an X-Cog at the same time. So it's a very good defensive tool. But you almost never see a Summoner use this in Crystal Conflict. This ends up being unlocked after you use the Limit Break. And again, people hardly ever use this thing. However, now with the new change, It will now do more damage effectively than an Akmorn. If you hit a similar amount of people with it. The difference is Akmorn is just instant. So it's an instant 12k. But in Kingdom Phoenix, when you hit people with it, it's 6k damage, which is only half the potency. But they have that 3k dot afterwards. And every 3 seconds is a tick. So you can end up doing more damage to a particular group of people within Kindle Phoenix. But that's not taken into consideration just flat out summoning Bahamut, which he does the Mega Flare, which is 18k potency in a rather large radius, so it's kind of hard to beat that. I still don't think there's going to be a whole lot of summoners using Phoenix over Bahamut, because people just tend to value damage more than defense, apparently. But the more I look at these abilities that Phoenix uses, because I literally see it that few times, the more I think that Phoenix is severely underrated, because Scarlet Flame is its passive damage it just deals to people. And it reduces the target's damage dealt by 50%. That's kind of huge. I didn't even realize it did that. I don't know if this change is going to be enough to have it to where we're gonna see more Phoenixes being used by summoners. But it exists, and if this was the dot portion of it, because I thought this was the dot portion of it. If this was the dot portion of it, then yeah, Phoenix would definitely be used a lot more often. In fact, it would probably be the only one used. But it's not a dot, the dot portion. So it is what it is. And yeah, so Summoners got a little bit of a buff. Mostly the biggest buff is their self-sustain with their Radiant Aegis, but it's something. They got stuff. Red Mage, Core. Damage reduction has been changed from 20% to 10%. I suppose it's a change to promote White Shift gameplay over just staying in Black Shift the entire time. And if that's the intent, then okay, I guess I can get behind that, because I see way too many Red Mages stay in Black Shift and they never get out of this shift, which kind of upsets me that that's the go-to tactic, because this is such an interesting concept, being able to shift from White Shift to Black Shift, that it's a bit of a shame that I only see Red Mages in Black Shift like almost the entire game, and it's a little sad that I had to see that. So if this is going to help promote more swapping between the two, I'm kind of fine with it, but even still, Black Shift still hits way too freaking hard for Red Mages to want to stay out of it, so I don't think it's going to be changing much. I'm still a little on the fence of it as of right now, but I feel like my opinion may change, may end up shifting to where this is a decent change. So, right now, currently on the fence, but I have a feeling it's probably a decent change. Astrologian. One single change. Base cure potency of their aspected Benefic, which is just, their normal heal. Just that thing they threw out. The base cure potencies went from 4k to 5k, so they're basically squeezing the minimum in between, even though just now that kind of healed for 4.7k for some reason. Okay, never mind. They're basically just tightening up the gap between the lowest potency and highest potency, because the max cure potency was apparently 12k, despite it saying it was 8k, so that's kind of news to me. So, yeah, they're just squeezing in the potency, and from our understanding, it's a buff, but what actually happened is a nerf in its maximum regard, and they just kind of squeezed in the range a little bit. So, yeah, that's pretty much all the changes we got going. They're kind of, Black Mage is probably the most necessary ones, because I don't see a lot of Black Mages, and the ones that do work have to play at an incredibly high level to make it work, so I'm kind of fine with it. But now I'm kind of scared of running into those same Black Mages, because they're gonna freaking slam now. Dancer, this is very good, very good. Machinist is probably gonna be the most present out of the lot of these, because again, they already hit freaking hard as is, and now they hit harder. So I don't think this was a good change. I honestly don't. So we're probably going to be seeing more Machinists than usual, and I already see them at like all over the place. Gunbreaker, it's a change to help them out. Relentless Rush, I probably think is the most necessary change, but the ones the Rough Divide, I feel like is telling me their attention is not in the right spot. They have a unique quirk to them that they're just kind of ignoring and just letting die right now. So it's okay for Gunbreakers, but it's not the direction that I feel like they should be looking at. Bard, it's alright. Like, it's a slight buff to their damage, and that's not really their focus anyway. So it's kind of there. Machinist, they're going to be overpowered, I'm going to feel. They're going to see them all over the place. Dancer, this is a very necessary change, since they can't really do anything to recuperate. And they can't recuperate, they can't guard while doing this, and they'll have to go through an animation lock to even enable them to do that. So, necessary change to reduce damage taken by 20%. Very good. Fan Dance is kind of a whatever kind of change. It's there, but doesn't really do anything. Black Mage, a bunch of quality of life changes, and they have more tankiness during limit break, which I think is necessary. Very good. I'm fine with this. Though their Flare and Freeze, if they're going to boost any of these damage, of these two abilities damage, I would prefer only Flare, because Freeze hitting just as hard as Flare, I feel like is not a good play, because if your team is coordinated, there's little reason to be using Fire in any regard. Just freeze everyone, and because if your team is coordinated and they burst the same target, that freeze is enough to basically guarantee just about any kill. And now it hits harder, just as hard as Flare. So, right there, I don't know about this change in particular. I'm fine with Flare hitting this hard, but not so much Freeze. So that's going to be something we're going to be dealing with. Black Mage is going to be a lot more rampant. Maybe not a lot more, but maybe a bit more. They're going to have this Paradox change is probably the biggest quality of life change they got. So that one, they're going to be able to have fun more often. So Black Mage, they're in a better spot now. They're in a better spot. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them being a normal job to come across. Summoner, these changes for the most part are kind of alright, but the strongest one by far is their Radiant Aegis, so they have a lot more defensive capabilities than before. And yeah, so they're going to be able to support their team or a dying member or themselves a lot more effectively with this change. So Summoners, they got a few damage buffs, but it's mostly the defense. Red Mage, they just got a slight nerf to Core, so the one person they're targeting deals a little bit more damage back to them. So now that we're back to that topic, I guess I'm fine with it being the way it is. Yeah, it's fine. Red Mages already do a lot of damage, and their White Shift already makes them really freaking tanky. And this will help promote them needing to be a bit more thoughtful towards Black Shift or White Shift, though not by a large margin at all. So it's a nerf that's probably not going to be really super noticeable. So that's a thing. An Astrologian, they just pinched the gap a little bit, and they changed the tooltip of the heal, showing what's going on. That's basically all the things that happen with the jobs. So, yeah. Overall, it's alright. It's alright changes outside of this one. This one I felt was the most unnecessary of the lot, and this is, I hope, gets revoked, because holy frick, they're gonna hit so freaking hard now with this change alone. Drill hitting that hard. Do I need to emphasize it? Because holy freaking heck, dude. You don't even need to go through that whole freaking hassle. You just do analysis, wildfire, knock them back, and then drill. If you hit one target, that's 12k here, 20k, so that's 32k, 12k, so that's 44k damage. Right there, right out the get-go. 40k damage, just unbuffed. Just raw damage. 44k damage. That's a lot. That's a lot of health they can just do instantly like that. So, yeah. I don't know how I feel about the Machinist change. Everything else I'm fine with. And Black Mage, I'm happy that they're getting these changes because they kind of did need it. Especially the 15 to 30 second one. That I've had that thing fall off so many times just because I wanted to survive and heal up. So very necessary. And Paradox, very big change. The potencies, they're a nice addition, but honestly the biggest change is the Paradox and the 15 to 30 second hold duration and the faster cast time. Faster cast time, much welcome. So in general, Black Mages, good for you. Probably gonna be seeing them more often. Anyway, that's mostly all the job stuff. Got a few other things. Crystal Conflict, where we Crystal players can now match with people who are Diamond 3. So good luck, Diamond 3, folks. Diamond 3, Diamond 2, and Diamond 1. Good luck to you, folks. Because, yeah, Crystal is, honestly, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes you can get extremely high-performing players, and other times it feels like they just got, like, a paid boost from Bronze. So good luck. Here's a big one. That's kind of hidden in this little PvP update. AFK kick is gone. Honestly, this is probably the most relevant thing for everyone. AFK kick is gone. So, yeah. Now you can just AFK with your computer all night and just stay online. So, yeah, that's a thing. Also, another little change. Like, a bunch of these things, they just added a bunch of description to a bunch of PvP stuff. I'm mostly focused on PvP stuff. PvE stuff is kind of not exactly my forte. But there's a bug that happened with a red mage that I didn't quite notice that was fixed. So displacement is an ability that red mages have where they backflip, and the potency of their next spell is buffed by 20%, but it doesn't affect the limit break, or at least it didn't affect the damage portion. It now used to increase the healing portion of it by 20%. So now that's changed to where that doesn't happen. So yeah, that's basically all the stuff that happened in this patch, for the PvP side of things at least. Alright, and that's about it. So those are all the changes for the PvP stuff, and it's kind of hard to tell exactly how it's going to affect the PvP scene in Crystal Conflict, just from the numbers alone. We'll see how it plays out in the field. And before we head on out, I'm going to take a moment to thank all of the folks on Patreon who help me do what I do. I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alright, and with all that said and done, thank you very much everyone for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful life. Take care, folks.